Welcome in, everybody, to the Saints Insider Podcast for Wednesday, May the 7th. Zach Ewing along with Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris on today's episode, and we will be talking rookie minicamp. What stage of the offseason? Is this like halftime of the offseason? What do we consider this? We're post-draft now. Are we into the third quarter?
Yeah, this is like the sleepy third quarter of the draft, and then early July is like you're covering a blowout in the fourth quarter, and you've already got your story written, you know,
and you're just waiting for it to
so
end.
You're just
at that
like
point.
Scanning Twitter, looking for some good deals on shoes.
How many?
I know that's Rod. I know Rod's looking for a new pair of J's over there.
What is
quarter
the strangest thing you've ever looked up in the press box at a Saints game?
I don't think I am contractually obligated to answer that question, Zach.
It would have been interesting. I thought I would try. I couldn't even tell you. It's probably been all sorts of random stuff during some of these games.
Don't get fired now.
We do have the schedule coming out next Wednesday, which will be exciting. So we'll do a couple of episodes around that next week. Probably one in advance and one afterward, where we'll do our first like official predictions with the win-loss cards and pick all 17 games for the Saints.
Are you going to have your kids draw new ones, or are we going to use their ones from last year?
No, we're recyclers around here, Matt.
Yeah, I paid way too much to have those laminated last year. I think we got to at least
like
get a
$5 allowance.
Yeah, times 8 cards or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know. Okay.
Labor ain't cheap, man.
So,
hey, by the way, can we discuss where the draft is being held next year, Matt?
Not next year.
That's 27.
Okay, 27
in Washington.
do we know where it's being held next year?
Pittsburgh.
Rod's Pittsburgh Steelers host the draft next year. So.
That's we've got a
Wisconsin. Something maybe they'll put it in Missouri or New Mexico for
an
Zach
Albuquerque draft. That would be something.
that would be something.
Yeah, Al Pacino's Albuquerque Aztecs from Any Given Sunday. Can you tell that we don't have a lot to talk about today?
No, we do. Actually, I have something very important to talk about. What is y'all's favorite number among the Saints rookie class? They released their jersey numbers this morning. So we've got Tyler Shough in 6. We've got Kelvin Banks in 71. We've got Vernon Broughton in 91. Danny Stutzman in 47. Jonas Sanker in 33.
This is seriously impressive that you know this already.
Devin Neal in 30.
Yeah.
We've got Maliki Matavao in 80, and we've got Fadil Diggs in 40. So those are your options. What's your favorite player number fit? This is the important stuff.
I'll do Danny Stutzman 47 just because it harkens back to the Khaleke Hudson days.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. You didn't go Alex Anzalone. I understand you weren't here for it. It's okay.
No.
I'm going to go.
Go ahead, Rod.
I'm just going to go Tyler Shough because it's the easy one. But also, somebody's wearing 91, you said? That's Will Smith.
Vernon Broughton.
Kendall
Will
Vickers.
Smith, right?
That's Will Smith, yeah.
Or
Kendall Vickers. If we're just going up by Saints circa 2023 and on.
I was going to say Shough
Matt's
also.
frame of reference.
And I'm not a big jersey number person, but my reasoning for Shough is that, if I'm not mistaken, there haven't been a lot of great quarterbacks wearing number 6.
Jay Cutler.
Yeah, Jay Cutler, Baker Mayfield.
He's still doing it, man.
Come on.
But, I mean, outside of that,
Bubby Brister.
Norman
That's a
says.
Northwest Louisiana guy, right? All right, Norman.
You know, but certainly no like Hall of Famers wearing 6. Like Tyler Shough could make this number his own.
Or he'll change it next year like Spencer Rattler did from 18 to 2.
Yeah,
He's the
okay.
greatest 6 ever, probably in Saints history.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you're probably right on that. I can't there's nobody that's like popping off the top of my head that wore number 6.
Pretty much every other single digit number's got some famous quarterback attached to it. It feels like,
Sure,
but not 6.
not 6. We'll see. We'll see what Tyler Shough makes. It's like the inverse. He's like the Drew Brees and the upside down. You know.
Well, and to be fair,
he's tall and
Tyler Shough. You probably could have guessed he was going to wear 6 because every other single digit number is taken except for 8 and 9, which
nobody's going to take.
Yeah, no one's going to take 8 or 9. So
Is Baker Mayfield still 6?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield and Jay Cutler are the 2 recent quarterbacks I could think of who wore 6. But
Yeah, Cutler's number 1 on this list I pulled up, by the way. Johnny Hecker is 2, the punter.
sportstakes.com or something.
And Baker Mayfield is 3.
Okay.
Well, you didn't throw Marcus May out there. I'm surprised. Okay, so I think my answer, very scientific. I like Jonas Sanker in 33. 33 feels like a hard-hitting safety number.
It does. You're right.
Yeah. I'll take that one.
33 hit stick. Okay, so rookie minicamp does start tomorrow with all of the aforementioned, as well as some UDFAs and maybe some second-year guys out there. what are we watching for? Rookie minicamp's always so hard to tell. You don't really even see where guys fit in on their own team, Matt, but because there's a few of them out there, and it's our first chance to see them, it is at least something. And I think more importantly in this case, it's a chance to see the coaching staff for the first time. So let's start there.
Yeah, it is. And, we're not getting complete access to see how they interact, but it's at least a taste of it. Kind of similar to last year with Clint Kubiak and how they were going to get going. I'll be interested to see if the staff tips their hand at all. Last year's rookie minicamp was pretty informative because they had Talise Fuaga playing left tackle, and lo and behold, he was their left tackle. So I think the coaching staff can kind of tip their hands that way, and so we'll see. But, yeah, it's a chance for them to kind of come out and show how they teach.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I'm looking forward to is just seeing how different this operation is versus Dennis Allen and Sean Payton. I mean, they practice the exact same way. Not the exact same way, obviously. They make tweaks every year, but it was pretty much the same standard format over close to the last 20 years. So it's going to look different a little bit, and there's going to be some different tempo. There's going to be some different drills. You've got an entirely new coaching staff in here, so I'm curious to see what it looks like. Obviously, these are different sorts of setups versus training camp and regular season practices, but I think it's going to look like I got to do. For the Super Bowl this year, I got to be the Kansas City Chiefs
Pool reporter.
So I got to see how they practice, and it was very different from the way the Saints operated. So I mean, that sort of stuff probably doesn't have a big impact on how the regular season unfolds, but I do think it is going to be different, especially for a lot of players that have been here for a long time. And they're used to a certain way of doing things.
For me, I was gonna say I'm just kind of looking forward to some of these. Well, obviously, Kellen Moore is young, but even some of these other assistant coaches they've just been in college, so now they're kind of moving up. So I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing how they interact with NFL players. And obviously, rookie minicamp will be almost like college players, I guess. But I mean, when we get toward OTAs, we'll get to see how they interact with some of these veteran players.
And one more thing too, I think we're gonna probably see some second year players there. I imagine. That's they typically do bring some of those guys back. Guys who didn't play a lot last year. I think Bub Means, Jalen Ford, Christian Boyd, maybe somebody like Mason Tipton, some of the undrafted guys, maybe get a chance to just get some extra work. So get an opportunity to see what those guys look like too.
Yeah, I was looking at last year's non-rookies who were there, and it wasn't really any of the draftees. It was, Jordan Mims, practice squad level guys. Jordan Mims, Faion Hicks.
Okay. It's a callback.
There were 5. Can I name the 5 off the top of my head? Faion Hicks, Jordan Mims.
I read your story and I still can't name the 5.
Michael Jacobson.
He wrote the story and he can't name the 5.
Michael Evans, or was it Michael Evans?
Mark
Evans.
Mark Evans.
Mark Evans, and a 5th one that I'm blanking on that I would need to pull up the story for.
All right, we'll let you do that during the break. Maybe
Fails on the immaculate grid.
I think, I don't know. We're not expecting this group of young coaches. To me, they're energetic. They're optimistic. I don't think you've got a hard ass in this group. Is that fair? I mean, I guess we'll find out.
A hard what?
You heard me.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't know if you said hard ask or...
Yeah, I thought ask.
No.
But now
There was no K.
We go hard on the Saints Insider podcast.
It's not George Carlin's
I mean,
words.
I don't know. I think we'll see. Bo Davis, defensive line coaches are generally the guys who are yelling. A hard A word.
Hard ask. The G-rated version.
I think we'll see a little bit of that. But yeah, I think generally, especially on the offensive side, you got a lot of cerebral guys. Brendan Nugent was here before. Joel Thomas was here before. I don't really recall those guys ever being up in somebody's grill. But that's not really how the NFL works, anyways. So
I mean, and Doug Nussmeier, his vocal cords are already fried from a lifetime of coaching. So he can get at least after someone, even if he's not.
He sounds like Willie Fritz when he's talking. If you just listen to him, you think, oh, that's not Willie Fritz.
And you'll always be able to hear Phil Galliano on the field.
Okay, so as far as the players go, Tyler Shough is getting all the headlines. We'll talk about Kelvin Banks in a minute too, but Tyler Shough is kind of in this honeymoon period, I think, with Saints fans where he's He's pressing the right buttons.
It went straight from "we hate your guts" to like, yeah, you
Oh
said
my
you'll
God, you
die
went to
for us.
Dragos.
Yeah.
The Dragos thing just cracks me up because I don't know if it's just a direct Derek Carr comparison that he went to Chipotle for his first meal in New Orleans.
Let
and-
me
it's
give you some
definitely-
advice. Don't say Jamal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, so instead he goes to a New Orleans institution, and then he has the Instagram post where he says, "I will die on the field for you," like the boyfriend in Inside Out. I will die for Riley. You know,
Luke also told me that when writing
the
my gamer. So he took over my deadline, so that's nice.
I will die on the field.
But Derek Carr almost died on the field for the Saints too. So
You know,
You never
Several
know what
times.
anyone's going through.
anyway, the point is, he's kind of like
He's in the good graces
he's
right
in the
now.
good graces.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything to mess that up in rookie minicamp. But what is it that you want to see from Tyler Shough that would just kind of keep you optimistic at this point?
I just want to see like how he just interacts with. I mean, I don't care if he completes a 40-yard pass tomorrow, or 50, whatever. I just want to see like how he interacts with the players and how they kind of feed into him. Because I mean, we didn't even mention like the Tulane. You know, him practicing with some players at Tulane.
Yeah.
I think he's like I said, like you said, he's done all the right things, and I think he needs to just kind of keep that up. And so that's what I just want to see, like just how the players kind of respond to him.
I mean, I'm interested in just seeing what the talent looks like up close, you know, because I do think that there's like you can see when somebody's got the big arm or whatever, like live and in person, and it jumps out at you. I want to see if that jumps out because we heard a lot about it in the draft build up and after they picked him, that he's one of those guys who can quote unquote make every throw. You see it on the highlights and everything, but I want to see what it looks like in person and see if I'm really wowed by it. I know he's got like all the prototypical stuff that you want. He's big, he's athletic. What does he look like in person? I don't think that anything I see is going to sway me one way or another, because it's not like they're going to be running real offense. They're not going to be running like super competitive stuff. They're certainly not going to be in pads. But like, does it look good? Does it pass the eye test? And that's what I want to see.
You want to see if he breaks his receiver's hands if they're not wearing gloves. That's no. I want to see how he processes information. Just he's a quarterback that learned like one system at Oregon, one at Texas Tech, one at Louisville, played at a pro-style offense in Louisville, so I think it can kind of help him get up to speed a little bit. Rookie minicamp's the first time to taste they'll get the playbook, see how fast he kind of grasps it, even if they're not introducing the whole thing. And, I just want to see how he kind of processes things. If he throws an interception, does he bounce back the next play? I want to see those types of things.
Yeah. I guess I was kind of trying to say that I'm not going to overreact to anything.
Yeah,
No, and I think that's right. I mean, and I'm glad you mentioned the throwing session that was all over social media also. At Tulane, he had Juwan Johnson there, Bub Means was there, Foster Morrow was there. I'm missing somebody.
It's
Definitely those three. I don't know if anybody else was there, but he has thrown with these guys before.
He also threw with Juwan while he was in college.
Do you remember?
And it feels so good.
Do you remember last year? I know there were some misgivings about Spencer Rattler at like mandatory minicamp. Oh, he's turning the ball over a lot and everything.
Yeah.
Was that as far back as rookie minicamp where there's some of those like, boy, I don't know about this guy? I mean,
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it was just kind of what we were just talking about. Like you could see the arm talent, right? Like you really can see it with Spencer Rattler. Like he can really sling it. And that's why like you can't overreact to anything you see, because then you're going to get in there around veterans, and he's like Tyler Shough's going to go in there in minicamp, and he's going to have a long way to go before we're talking about him as like a week one starter in the NFL. So like we could see some of that stuff from Tyler Shough in veteran minicamp this year, where he's late on his throws and it's behind, and it's a little worrisome at the point. But Spencer Rattler over the course of training camp got a lot better. And I think we could see the same sort of development path for Shough, because both of those guys played a lot of college football. Spencer Rattler was a 5-year player, I think, at college. Started a lot of games. Tyler Shough was obviously 7 years, started a lot of games. But there's still there's still development that needs to happen over the course of it. So, like the point is, I don't think we're going to see any of that stuff that's like really like, oh, I don't know, like they might have whiffed on this. Even if he misses like a couple open receivers against air, like.
Could you imagine though? If he was
Oh wow,
bad? Just like, well, time to write him off.
How about talk about the 2026 Saints? How about that?
Will Tyler Shough be a training camp cut?
Yeah.
No, I don't think anything would elicit that kind of reaction, or he's the surefire starter. Like either way, you can't take too much away.
If you say he's a surefire starter after rookie minicamp, you should not be.
I mean, I don't think there is a surefire starter on this. It's Carr if he's healthy.
I was wondering y'all think Spencer will be there for rookie minicamp?
I don't know.
I just think as a second-year guy with a new system.
I would.
Like it would. First of all, I don't know what the rules
Yeah,
are
I was gonna say, that's what I was
for like
asking,
who you can invite, but like it would be a surprise, even though like he could use as much time as he can get with it. But like you got to remember, the vets have been there already for a couple of weeks working with this staff, so it's not going to be on-field work like they're going to get in rookie minicamp. But like at the same time, I'd be surprised if he's there.
I think you want Shough to get those reps too. Like this is his opportunity to start getting those reps. So. While we're on the topic, Jane Slater reported that Derek Carr has been in New Orleans to see the team doctor. We want to cover that real quick. I mean, maybe it's not surprising, but I think it's an important distinction because some people are like, well, how come the Saints haven't medically evaluated him, and how come they don't know what's going on? Like, they probably know more than what anyone has let on.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so. If all they knew was what they've said publicly, then they're in a really bad spot. But I mean, that just kind of aligns with what Mickey Loomis said, with what little he said about Derek Carr. Is that like we'll have more answers for you soon. So you know, I would imagine at some point in the next couple of weeks we'll probably know at least a little bit more as far as what his options are for 2025. Is he even going to be remotely in the cards for this team? Is he going to need surgery? Maybe a couple of weeks is being optimistic, but you know, it seems like they're at least trending toward that point.
Yeah, I'm going to go on record. I didn't say this last week, but you all said about 10% or lower the chance that Carr starts. I think it's a little higher than that. 25%.
I wasn't on this pod, but I think I told somebody separately that I put it at about 20%.
Yeah, I'm at 20-25. I think there's at least a decent chance because if he's healthy, he's going to start. The question is he healthy? I don't see any other pathway where he gets off the team at this point. Like, I mean, it's not a good deal for either side at that point, especially not for the Saints. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the only way to push against that is if Derek Carr has just made up his mind that he's not playing and he's not going to be a part of the Saints organization anymore, or vice versa. You know, since we don't know exactly what everybody feels about it, the Saints are obviously set up now in a position where they don't need Derek Carr to be here. You know, and I think it's pretty clear that he's not in their long-term plans. So if one or both sides is like, you know what, like this has just been too weird. Let's just Derek, you're gonna go on IR and you don't have to be around the team. You know, like
it could be.
You could see something like that happening.
Could be. Okay, so usually the first round pick gets all the attention at these things. We're like 15 minutes into this podcast and haven't mentioned Kelvin Banks. And Matt, like you said with Fuaga, that's probably the most concrete thing we're going to see as far as a sign of what this team's going to look like in the fall is where do they line up Kelvin Banks?
Yeah, and something Kellen Moore said after the draft I thought was really interesting was, like most coaches, they start their guys at one spot, and then as the summer goes along, introduces like another position. They don't want to overload these guys with information right away. So as much as they talked about versatility, position flex, they're going to introduce that as the summer goes along. And so, you know, if we see Kelvin Banks playing tackle, I think that's an indication they view him as a tackle.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I think I think personally that's the most likely outcome. Like I would have a hard time believing that they picked him in the top 10 with the idea that he's going to be a guard for them.
That's a high pick for a guard.
Yeah.
Does that mean he plays left tackle and Fuaga shifts to right, which was his natural position?
I think that would only be speculation at this point. Yeah, I don't think that we have truly any idea on that.
I think we're glossing over the fact that a lot of people thought Fuaga was going to be a guard a year ago too. Like if you look at pre-draft rankings, he was listed among the guards. Now, credit to him, he proved that he could play tackle. I thought he was pretty good as a rookie, but it's an option for them. It makes a little bit more like if you told me, "All right, we're going to try Penning at tackle still, and then move Fuaga to guard," I wouldn't be shocked. But at some point, I think you want your elite talent playing both of those two positions.
That's what I think. Yeah, they could do that absolutely, and I think Fuaga would probably be an awesome guard. But like he's already proven himself to be at the very least an average to above average tackle in his rookie season. And I think if you take that away to take another dice roll on Penning, I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable with the idea of keeping Fuaga where he is and like seeing if Banks can play it. And if Banks can't play it, then you put him inside and you're just like, okay, we'll play him at guard and with the idea that he'll be our tackle eventually. But I think you've already seen it out of Fuaga enough to not like play into the, well, maybe he'd be better suited at guard.
Would you go try Banks at left tackle if that's iffy, then try him at right tackle, then guard? Or would you go left tackle, left guard, then right tackle if need be?
I would honestly probably just try him out at right and see if he can play it. I might be in the minority here, but I think Trevor Penning is a guard.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think it all just kind of boils down to what if you can get Trevor to play guard, I think it works out. That's the ideal situation.
And I mean, we haven't seen it out of Trevor, and obviously he's very big to play the position. He's like 6'7", 320. You know, he's a large man. You don't see a lot of guys that size playing guard, but I just think from what he excels at versus what he struggles at, I think it makes sense to try him on the inside and see if he can be a player there.
Just to play devil's advocate, and because I don't necessarily disagree with you guys, but Trevor Penning's development has been so slow because of injury and because of whatever else. Is it putting him back further now that you've finally seen some progress from him at right tackle to say, oh, no, we're changing positions again?
I would agree with that. I mean,
no, you go first, and I'll disagree.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm more skeptical that like I could easily see a 5-man lineup that doesn't include Penning in there, and I think you could have Dylan Radins play guard depending on how he holds up. I kind of think we're glossing over maybe the difficulty of switching to guard if need be. Like Landon Young did it, and he held up okay there, but that's being pretty generous. And so I just, there have been former high draft picks that have done it. Mekhi Becton, who Kellen Moore saw last year, is a good example of that.
I know who you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Brandon Scherf. Eric Flowers.
Eric Flowers.
Okay, I was going Scherf, but
no, it's a Washington example, but yeah. Eric Flowers, Brandon Scherf, though he was more of a guard in the NFL, but he was a tackle in college. So you can do it, but to Zach's point, like, yeah, this is year four of Penning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like the Flowers and the Becton examples are a little bit more relevant given where he's at in his career. But I don't know. I could see it being a rough transition just based on, his slow development period. I think that's a really good point.
The counter argument to that is like maybe there is a lot more there with Penning. The staff last year was really, really high on him. They said the sky's the limit for him. He obviously played much better last year than he had in any previous year. But if you're not convinced that he's ever going to make it there, and you still are gambling on the talent, like see if he can play guard, and if he can, then you've got your offensive line set, and you've got a bunch of these guys on rookie contracts, and obviously like Penning has one more year on his deal. Like I think if you're gonna do it, this is the time to do it, because like if he's just okay at right tackle next year, are you gonna want to bring him back? Or are you gonna want to upgrade?
I think that's a good point because they do have to make a decision on him at some point. They declined the 5th-year option. This is now a contract year.
That decision's coming up in 10 months.
Yeah, is he a tackle or is he a guard?
Right.
And how good is he at that position?
The other hard part about Penning's evaluation, too, is that there's such a disparity between him as a run blocker and him as a pass blocker. Like, you want that guy run blocking. He's an above-average player. He's very good.
Yep.
Pass blocking, at best, he's very inconsistent. I think he held up better on that end at right tackle, but there were still some inconsistent reps. And I wonder, with this scheme switch, how much was Clinton Kubiak and that system really benefiting to his strengths? And if they go away from some of those wide zone tendencies here, does he regress in that regard? Like, how does this offense suit him?
Yeah.
Which is not a question that will be answered this weekend, obviously, but we can at least get the first hint with where Kelvin Banks lines up. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll switch over to the other side of the ball, what we're kind of looking for on the defensive side from some of those rookies at minicamp. But we'll be right back on the Saints Insider.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. With Quick Picks, you can tap right into pre-built, ready-to-bet parlays right from the home screen. And if you miss tip-off, no worries. You can play same-game parlays live during the action. Plus, it's never been easier to find and bet on the biggest matchups of the day, so you can keep up with all the action. Caesars Sportsbook, proud partner of the NBA and the only sportsbook app with Caesars Rewards. Download it today.
And we're back on the Saints Insider. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's New Orleans Saints at NOLA.com. 17,000, almost 18,000 people. So subscribe, get in on the offseason here. We're going to have lots of podcasts coming up, including the schedule one next week. If you're watching on Facebook, flip over to YouTube, subscribe. It's just easier to get notifications for when the videos are coming and also to comment for us to see your comments and things like that. So encourage you to go over to YouTube. And while you're there, hit the like button for us. Okay, defensive side of the ball. This one's interesting. I don't know, Matt, there's a couple different places you could go here. We could go secondary, where Quincy Riley's going to play. We could go up front, where Vernon Broughton's going to play. And I'm also curious to see what the linebackers look like. So you really have all three levels of the defense, where this is the first time we're going to get to see what Brandon Staley's scheme looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to... I don't know if we'll get like a full 11 out there. So, I mean, I guess we will. There are some positional questions, though. Is Quincy Riley an outside cornerback, or is he an inside? Is Broughton a defensive tackle, or like a base defensive end in a 3-4? And how does that change if they go to nickel? Like, these guys are versatile pieces. Another guy we haven't mentioned, Jonas Sanker. Well, you mentioned him, your favorite jersey number.
Jonas.
Is it Jonas? Yeah.
Yes, it is Jonas. My apologies.
Yeah.
Is he a free safety? Is he more of a box safety? I think he's more of a box, but this is the time to prove you could be versatile. They have, like, rookie minicamp is also part of, like, allowing these guys to adjust to the NFL and show what they can do.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing? Is it Big Communion? Danny Stutzman?
Oh my gosh, what a caption! Maybe Tyler Shough hired his Instagram guy for the "I would die for you" thing. Yeah, I mean, as much as I was kind of down on the pick right after it happened, and I still kind of remain so, just because I thought the value wasn't really exactly right. I am really interested to see what they do with Vernon Broughton, who is somebody who at Texas lined up every single position on the defensive line, nose tackle to wide nine. So, like, how do they view him? I asked Kellen Moore after the draft if he's, like, strictly a defensive tackle, and he said yes.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Because, like, we just don't know what this defense is going to look like. Like, if they're in 3-4, like, I don't think you want the 305-pound, 6'5" D tackle. Like, that's not necessarily your zero technique player in that base look. But, like, does he fit the kind of archetype for a 3-4 defensive end? Yes. But maybe he's also just like their sub defensive tackle guy, somebody who can give him some interior push on passing downs. Like, I really don't know. I think there's just a lot of variance with that player that we're going to get at least a little bit of a glimpse of how they view him there. Because I think that's an important one for them to hit on. Like, we've talked a lot about how their defensive interior was not as good last year as it should have been. And that was a position that I thought was really talent-rich in this year's draft class. And, I think they drafted him a little bit higher than a lot of other people were kind of anticipating he'd go. obviously they had experience there with Bo Davis coaching them in Texas for a couple of years. They have a little bit of the inside knowledge there, so maybe he's a better player than what anybody else figured. But I'm really just intrigued to see how they move him around and how they use him.
As far as Riley goes in the secondary, Rod, like that to me is the Kelvin Banks of the defenses, where he lines up, tells you what they're planning on doing with Alontae Taylor and kind of the whole secondary.
Cool, yeah. And like I mentioned it last week, I still think the secondary, and you can make an argument for receiver. I think that's the weak link on this team right now. So I think Quincy Riley's role is going to be very important, how good they can be in the secondary, because, I mean, you're running out Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and Alontae now, and, I mean, do you want those two? I mean, those two guys are going up against, some of the best receivers in the league every week. So, I mean, Quincy's going to need to find a spot in there. I'm curious to see what it is and how they decide to move him around.
Even if he's really good, like, do you think they can afford going into the season with what they got right now at DB? At corner specifically? I think they're okay at safety. But
I mean, I still think it's the weak link on the team.
I have a podcast and an article you can listen to and read if you want to see who's out there.
Call him old Plugs McGee over here. I think that, like, even if he's like, I think you need to have 5 guys that you can count on at corner every year.
Yeah, I don't
Ike
Right,
Yiadom.
but like let's say they can count on Ike Yiadom. That's 4, right? And that's asking for a rookie 4th round pick to be a player. That's asking for Kool-Aid McKinstry to take a step forward from last year. I think he was just okay last year as a rookie. It's asking for Alontae Taylor really to play his best ball of his career after just kind of being shuffled in between inside and outside and not really finding a home. We see the flashes from him that are awesome, but we see like some inconsistencies with him. I just think you're asking a lot out of that group, even if they're not going to put as much stress on corners in this Brandon Staley defense versus the Dennis Allen defense, where they were like a lot of times out on an island. I think it's still kind of hairy for me. Like, I got him had really one good year as a cover corner, and that was under Dennis Allen. Quincy Riley is a 4th round pick who, like, I'm personally high on, but like that's asking a lot out of a rookie corner. I just like that feels like an area where they could use some of this excess cap space they have to make a move there and just get somebody who's going to make you feel a little bit more comfortable in the inevitable case of injuries.
I just think, and Rod, I'm curious to know if you feel the same way. Like, to me, this entire defense feels like it's going to be a work in progress. I mean, I don't I don't know that there's a single spot on the defense where you go, well, I'm comfortable with that. Maybe DeMario, but he's getting older. Like, everything just seems so uncertain. It's a new scheme. You have a little bit of a misfit toy aspect of, players from Dennis Allen's scheme now being fit into a new system. Like, I just think this is tenuous at best.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive side of the ball is behind the offensive side, and on that side, I just think on a unit that's full of weak spots, I think corner is the weakest of the weak on that side, and that's why I'm concerned about it. And I think that's why Quincy Riley probably needs to be good unless they, like Luke said, go out and get somebody who can fill in some holes on that side.
I was thinking about this the other day, just like kicking myself for saying last year's a bold prediction they were going to be a top 8 defense. I still can't believe I said that.
You're going to go bottom 8? That's not even bold.
No, I don't think they'll be bottom 8.
Were you raising your hand over there?
No, I was going to scratch my head, and then I realized we were on video. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty.
I don't know. Like, I think they've addressed the spine of their defense, right? They did it in the draft and in the trade for Devon Godshaw. So, like, I think they're going to be better as a run defending unit. Like, it was clear. Like, day 2 and 3, they had a span of 4 picks where it's like D tackle, box safety, linebacker, and the box safety and the linebacker are both guys who had multiple seasons of 100+ tackles. Like, those are run defending players. So, like, you can see the path for them to get better at run defense, which could improve their defense as a whole. If they're in more 3rd and long situations, maybe the pass rush gets better. Maybe that helps out some of the spots in the secondary. Maybe Brandon Staley is really the genius that we thought he was that 2019 or 2020 season with the Rams. And they had the number 1 overall defense, number 1 scoring defense. Maybe he's truly going to turn this around for him. But like, I don't know, man. It's just there's a lot of questions on that side of the ball, and I don't think we're going to have real answers to that until we see them line up in week 1.
Well, this is the interesting part about the Saints' approach this offseason, because normally when a coaching staff comes in, you do see kind of a mass exodus of these aren't our guys. We're going to switch to a new scheme. Like, let's take out the old, bring in the new. And they brought in some new. They have a lot of draft picks that, you know, in theory, fit this type of scheme. They signed some guys, they traded for some, but largely this is the same roster from last year.
Yeah, who did they kick
They
out?
only lost Willie Gay, right?
Yeah,
Right.
It's like the only.
Adebo.
Willie Gay,
yeah.
Adebo,
I mean, Marshawn Lattimore from the year before. but
right?
There's no, maybe it's it's
MVS. I think the interesting thing about that is they have this just like incredibly rare pairing of a GM who's been here for 20 plus years and a first year head coach, you know, with a completely new staff that wants their guys.
And salary cap inflexibility
well, yeah,
as well.
That you know they can't just cut Cam Jordan,
Right.
and you know, a number of other guys for various reasons. But it is a really interesting pairing. Whereas like if they would have canned Mickey Loomis and brought in a new GM, maybe you see a lot more of that. You know, and maybe you see them bite the bullet on some of the players where it just would have cost them more to cut them than to keep them, but they want to bring their guys in. This is more. I mean, these are long-standing relationships with the executive side of the team and some of the players. I mean, Cam Jordan's been here for this will be his 15th season in New Orleans, right? So. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic between the two.
right. I think the Saints are in a transition, not a rebuild.
Yeah.
As much as people want a rebuild to happen, and they've taken some steps where you could look at it and say, oh, well, maybe they are rebuilding. Like, they haven't gone full into it. And I'm not even talking about like a complete tank, because I don't think that's an option here. I'm just saying, like, let's get younger. Let's do this. Like, they've still kind of danced their way around it. And so I think it's more of a transitional period than it is full
If it's a
out.
rebuild, it's like a long tail rebuild. Like, it's going to take a few years to get through all this. This is not hitting the reset
Until
button,
Shough throws for 34 touchdowns this year.
which we will see the start of
And
at
30
rookie minicamp this weekend.
Full Jameis.
How many slides do we have left?
Just one.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm it popped into my head here. Like, without seeing any of these guys yet, how many members of this rookie class do you think actually make the roster?
Hey,
There's 9 players. I would bet 8 of them make the roster.
I was going to say, I don't think many
I'll
you
go
can
all
afford
9.
to cut. I think it could be all 9.
I think the only one who I think has a really tough path to the roster
it's dead.
is
I'll go
no,
ahead.
was gonna go
think
the tight end,
Yeah, I think Monteval.
Yeah,
I was gonna say 7. And I was gonna say the last 2 guys, Diggs and
Monteval.
him.
But I guess the Saints have kept, or Kellen Moore's had like 3 tight ends on rosters before. Like, they're not going to keep a fullback this year, so that opens up a spot. So maybe all 9. Like, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if all 9 make it.
Well, if you want to get younger and cheaper,
that's the way to do it. Yeah.
like you want to keep now connected to that discussion is what the last slide's about, and that's undrafted free agents. So, are there guys? I mean, last year this was the Dallin Halker segment. I don't know that there's one of those guys who everybody's like, oh God, you got to watch this kid. Or is there? I don't know. Is it?
I mean,
what are you
like,
looking for?
honestly, like, I think the most intriguing guy is the punter from Alabama, and I can't even remember his name. Jesse
Brian.
It is an IP
Burnup.
Burnup or
Jesse
something, yeah.
Burnup.
It's Jamie
Burnup.
Burnup. Yeah.
Burnup.
Clearly,
Burnup the punter.
Clearly, we're not enamored with any of them.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, like, in the last couple of years, you've seen him, especially under Rizzi, like, they'd always find a guy who is like an electric return man in college. You're like, okay, that guy has a path to the roster. I don't think there are any of those in this class. I don't think there's anybody who really just like really jumps off as like as somebody who you're like, wow, he wasn't drafted. But he probably should have been. They have a chance to make the roster, like Dallin Holker last year. But like, I don't think, like, Hayball had a decent rookie season. I think he led the NFL in punts inside the 20, both in the number of punts and the percentage of punts, which is probably more just a factor of how many times they got to like the 50 and couldn't do anything with it from there. But like the net yardage numbers were like really low. He had some really inconsistent moments. I think Burnup was, a pretty solid punter for a big pedigree program. You could see him winning a camp competition for the job, maybe, unless he comes in here and just looks like crap. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the Giants game that Rizzi just exploded on.
Oh man,
poor Matthew Aball just got an earful.
I think he was. I think Rizzi was on one that day though.
A lot of things went wrong in that Giants game.
Actually,
And then something went
Matthew
right.
Aball's shoulder. It turns out it's not.
We call that one. What do we call that? A jersey shakedown? Chris Tyree is the other one, Virginia wide receiver that you mentioned, Matt, who could make the roster as a kick returner.
Yeah, he's actually it actually reminds me of Velvis Jones Jr., who they added in this offseason. Velas, sorry. Okay. Anyway, though he was a receiver, now trying to be a running back and return guy. They're doing Tyree's the opposite, where he was a running back at Notre Dame, had 2 touchdowns there as a return man, 1 punting, 1 kicking. And I think maybe, he's not Jermaine Jackson Jr., where you look at him, it's like, oh, here's our returner, or here's a guy who could be our returner, because Jermaine Jackson didn't really pan out that way. But that was the guy in last year's class that we were all looking at and saying oh, maybe they found maybe this is their guy. There's not one of those, but of this group, I think maybe he could be that.
And you got that Moochie Dixon.
May a couple time, by the way. We both messed up the name. It's Velas Jones.
Oh.
Velas, not Velas, not Velvis.
Not to be confused with Velvet Jones from Saturday Night Live. But there's a Moochie Dixon guy from SMU, another kind of, undersized receiver, which, this team is loaded with those, it seems like. So I'm curious to see what he can do. But, you got Mason Tipton, who can probably return punts. I do think they'll probably, Rashid's been kind of doing it, so I think they'll probably.
At least early, you wouldn't think he would.
Yeah, you probably need to get him out of that role with all the injuries
I would
he's had.
take him out of that.
Yeah, he needs to be.
I'd love Rashid Shaheed as a returner. I think he's awesome, but he is so important to their offense. They cannot.
So they do have to find one somewhere, and I don't know. It could be Mason Tipton or Velvet Jones or whoever.
Velvet Jones. We got all sorts of new nicknames on the show. I believe the second year guy from last year's rookie minicamp, Michael Jacobson, is he the one you didn't mention?
No, he mentioned it.
He's mentioned. Okay,
Michael Jacobson's a tight end.
Okay, we got Jacobson, Mark Evans.
We mentioned him.
Rajon Wright.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
Rajon Wright, the corner. So who do we think? It feels to me, receivers would be likely a Bub Means or a Mason Tipton, because you may have your week 1 starting quarterback out there at rookie minicamp, and the more chemistry you could get with that guy, the better. Is that fair?
I think so. But I also think they're going to have you're going to have some kind of weird decisions to make there, because you got your top 3 who aren't going anywhere, and then who else do we have on the roster besides him? You have Cedric Wilson, Mason Tipton, Bub Means, Kevin Austin. I don't know. It's a lot of that. It doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence.
Is Jermaine Jackson still here?
I think Jermaine Jackson's still on the roster. But I
don't think he is.
I don't think you have anybody that really moves the needle there. Bub Means did some really nice things in kind of limited playing time last year, but obviously the injuries caught up to him. I don't know. That's still as you kind of alluded to earlier, it's still a position group that could probably use some help.
One thing I'm interested with rookie minicamp too is the Saints haven't released their full roster, but teams get up to 5 non-rookie training camp invites. So it can be veterans trying to get back in the league, guys who kind of forgotten about. And the Saints hit on 2 of those last year. Kendall Vickers was one of them. Rod Teamer, those guys played in the regular season for them. They didn't make the 53-man roster, but they had solid training camps. They were in the mix, and so that's an opportunity for guys to impress as well.
This is the first podcast that Kendall Vickers was mentioned twice.
Big day for him. Big day
Almost
for him.
as good as when we spent 20 minutes on Landon Young's contract.
Probably also the time for us to wrap it up. The plan right now is to be back Tuesday, and we'll do a little pre-schedule release podcast and kind of half what we expect, half what we think the Saints should want out of their schedule.
And 1/3 just totally hyping up gas and
We
got
forgot
Tyler
Dante
Shough.
Pettis. Apologies
Yes.
to him.
Oh, Dante
Oh,
Pettis.
Dante Pettis.
yeah.
He actually finished strong.
Cousin of Kellen Moore's favorite receiver at Boise State.
I'll tell you what the Saints don't want in their schedule next year is a division game followed by a Monday night game followed by another division game followed by a Thursday game against Sean Payton, because that was my takeaway from last year.
Well, that's not going to happen.
No, that is not going to
Because they're
happen.
not playing Sean Payton this
Not
year.
exactly, but we'll see. Interesting road trips. They got some long road trips this year too. So we'll see how it all shakes down. And then Thursday we'll react to the Wednesday schedule release and give our game-by-game predictions. So that'll be fun too. Until then, Norman Bell was our producer today. He's Rod Walker. They're Luke Johnson and Matthew Paris. I'm Zach Ewing, and thank you for watching the Saints Insider.
Buffalo in December.